Hey guys, TheAirsoftTech here and welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my emergency tech kit, the kit that I take with me to games so that I can work on my gun, a teammate's gun, or really anybody's gun that may or may not go down during the day. It really sucks to have your gun go down, especially a gun that you've worked on for a long time, and it sucks even more when the part that causes it to go down is something very easy to replace that you could have brought with you and easily replaced it between games. So let me show you my kit. I'll show you all the parts that I bring and all the tools that I also bring as well. So like I said earlier, it really sucks when the gun you've been working on for a long time suddenly goes down at the game, and it's a simple part that broke and you didn't bring it with you, so you can't fix it and you can't use it, and you're either out of the game for good or you're stuck with your spare gun that may or may not be as cool as your primary gun. So first we'll start with the tools and then we'll work our way to the parts. I'm gonna make this video pretty quick. I know this could get out of hand pretty easily. As you see, I tend to bring a good amount of stuff with me to work on guns, so we'll make it as quick as possible, starting with the tools. So starting off with the tools, as you can see, I pretty much bring things that can take apart a gun completely. So regular long Phillips head screwdriver, regular flathead screwdriver, usually for buffer tube kind of stuff that's really sitting far down there. And then I bring, of course, my tools to take apart smaller screws, gearbox screws, stuff like that. And then I take a punch and a hammer. Now sometimes when a gun breaks down, there's let's say it's a teammate's gun and the gun has never been taken apart and it sounds like it's just a tappet plate spring or it's just a tappet plate, whatever. Easy fix, break open the gearbox shell, but the first time the gun's ever been opened, that first rear pin might be super duper stuck in there, so a punch and a hammer really go a long way in order to kind of encourage pins to remove themselves. Also take a pair of pliers, they're just really handy. I take a pair of really sharp pliers so that I can actually break things if I need to. Trim a spring down, I can trim a tappet plate spring down, I can trim a tappet plate fin down. These are just great to have. I take, let's see here, the Dremel with me. The Dremel is super duper cool. You can correct angle of engagement, you can short stroke some sector gears if the gun has a full stroke steel rack piston. Dremels are excellent to have for that reason. And then I take bits for the Dremel as well. Just some pretty variable bits here, a grinding wheel, a cutting wheel, and then or a cutting attachment, and then an actual grinding wheel attachment itself. And then I take a really kind of cheap soldering iron with me with solder and flux as well. If you're going to solder, do it right or as closely as you possibly can. And then I also take with me this little thing here for helicoils. Those are really the gearbox screws that hold in the grip to the gearbox. That breaking is a huge pain in the butt. That does break not super often, but often enough to warrant carrying this with me to the game. So that is what these right here are for. I should make a video on that sometime. That'd be really great to go over. A couple other things that I bring with me that I'm going to classify as tools: JB weld and glue. If I need to correct angle of engagement, I need to put a faucet washer pad on a cylinder head, or I need to glue a steel rack down, or whatever have you. This is going to be great for that, so I will keep those with me at these games. Now let's go over some of the spare parts that I bring with me. Now the parts that I take with me are parts that are most likely to break or are most likely to cause a performance deficit. So that being said, all these things here can cause a performance deficit or are easily replaceable / easily broken. This right here is just a full stuff of shrink tube. Really, could have put this in the tool section, but I bring this just in case I need to break open a wire, or a wire's been exposed and then I need to heat shrink back over top of it. Obviously bring a lighter with you so that you can, or a type of heat source that you can shrink that tube back on. But this is excellent to take with you just in case you need to do a rewire, or a wire's been cut by accident, like a buffer tube or something, cut it open. So that's really good to take with you as well. Now the parts wise, now I take this little parts bin here with me that just holds a couple small things here. These little chambers here help me to take apart a gun so I can put screws in here. If I'm working on a really cheap old table in the middle of a abandoned factory that we play Airsoft in, then this is excellent to keep small parts in so that you don't lose them. I take hop-up buckings with me because hop-up buckings tend to wear out at the worst possible times, so I always take 2 low neck 70-degree buckings with me. I take a set of piston bearings with me, just in case I need to do a piston swap or a piston head swap or whatever have you. I can use those to add some weight to the cylinder, or not the cylinder, add some weight to the piston assembly, so that's really great there. Tappet plate springs are an absolute must to take with you. Take 2 or 3, they're really small, they're really easy to replace, and a broken tappet plate spring absolutely destroys your gun's performance. So, can't work without it. I take a bunch of O-rings with me, O-rings for the main piston and then O-rings for the barrel. Now the barrel O-rings are not really necessary. I take those with me just in case I need to kind of push a hop-up chamber up against a gearbox shell really, really well. So yeah, and then also take faucet washers with me for AOE correction, and then hard plastic nylon shims with me to also correct angle of engagement between the piston and the piston head as needed. Also, I take 2 really basic motors with me. They're both 28 TPA, very strong motors. Now, if your 16 TPA high performance, high torque speed motor breaks down in the middle of a game or burns out, replacing with a 32 or 28 TPA motor is gonna kind of be, you know, meh in terms of performance, but it's going to work, and that's what really matters for the day, right? So I take those 2 motors with me. This is just a lid for that right there. Now other parts, I take a piston with me, I take a piston head with me. Now you can remove your teeth, so you're not doing that at the field. There might not be a power source to do that, so doing that before the game is a good idea, just in case your piston strips. I take a bunch of tappet plates with me because my TSG burns through them, and so does my DSG. So take some tappet plates with me, and then I take some springs with me as well. Now, these springs are different ratings. This is an M120, this is an M110, and this is an M100. I can easily swap these springs out in my primary guns and just easily adjust the FPS per the field's allowance. And also, sometimes chronos just don't work as well with each other or aren't as consistent with each other. So like my chronograph might read 5 or 7 points over somebody else's chronograph, which they're going to go by their chronograph and not by mine. And if the field limit is 400 and their chronograph says that my gun is shooting at 410 or 415, they may not allow it versus my chronograph saying that it shoots right at 400. So those are the spare parts I take with me. Pretty much this has been influenced by 8 years of experience, 8 or 10 years of experience, by seeing things that break down, things that burn out, things that you need to swap to make your gun field legal. And all these tools and all these parts fit really easily in this small bag, so you're really not dedicating a lot of space, a lot of weight to just being able to work on people's guns as needed, or your own gun as needed. So yeah, all this is really easily portable, it's really easy to obtain. You as a tech should already have these things, so you might as well take them with you just in case something happens at the game. Now, obviously, everybody's kit is going to vary from person to person, and that's just based on your experience. My experience tells me these are the things that I need to take care of 90% of problems that could happen during game day. Now, obviously, a couple things that aren't pictured here. I always take a Lipo Charger with me, and I always take my chronograph with me, just in case I need to recharge some batteries, or I want to chronograph my gun before I take it up and get in line, and then chronograph it with the refs of the field. I take those things with me in addition to all the stuff here. Now, like I said, your kit is going to vary from my kit based on your experience. You might be asking why I'm not taking a spare set of gears or bearings, bushings, etc. And honestly, if something like a gear set strips in my primary gun, I'm not going to take an hour or maybe even 2 hours to fix the problem that a stripped gear set can cause, just so I can use that primary gun a little bit longer for whatever time is left during that game day. It's for that reason, in addition to other reasons, that I take multiple guns with me. If I take my ICS M4, I also take my Chris Vector, I also take my TSG build, I'm looking at them at the gun wall here, I also take my G36, my DSG build, I take multiple guns with me just in case any one of them fails and becomes unusable during game day. Now you might be asking, how often does that happen? Not very often. There's been a couple of times, maybe 3 or 4 times, where my guns have had some sort of catastrophic failure or have had some failure where it has been completely unusable during that day. But most of the time, if there is any type of error, which is fairly rare because if you're like me, then you check your guns before you actually take them out to just play with them. If there is a problem, it's going to be a tappet plate spring. It's going to be a tappet plate. It's going to be a main spring is just a little too hot, or maybe it's a little too, low FPS for your taste for that game day. 90% of problems are that, and this kit kind of resolves that. In addition to all that, if you're anything like me and you see somebody who can't play because their one and only gun broke down for the day, then you're more than likely going to jump in and lend a hand to see if it's a simple issue that you can fix. 9 times out of 10, this kit can fix those simple issues. So again, if you're like me and you want to offer that helping hand, this kit will help you do that. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, please subscribe and like this video to boost it up in the algorithm. In addition, comment down below. Tell me what you think about my tech kit. Tell me if you think anything needs added to it, or if anything needs taken out, if you think it's a little too extra, or if you think it's not enough, please let me know down below. All right, guys, that's going to have to do it for this video. Thank you again very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video of whatever the heck I'm doing next. But until then, stay tuned, techs.